Hi, I'm Shelley Lefko. I'm Morty's wife and a certified Lefko Method facilitator. For the past 20 years, I've been working with 25 to 30 clients over the phone every week on a wide variety of personal issues. Along with Morty, I'll be guiding you through some of the beliefs and conditionings on this program. I am thrilled to be working with you. Here we are at belief number 7. Even though the questions are the same as with prior beliefs, your answers will not necessarily be the same. So please answer each question out loud to make sure the belief is eliminated. If you do the process, I promise the belief will be eliminated. It's worked tens of thousands of times. If you only listen to me, nothing's going to happen. The next belief is a belief that most of our 13,000 plus clients have had. I'm not capable. A lot of people who have had this belief deny it at first. Of course I'm capable, they say. I do a good job at whatever I do most of the time. Most people who have this belief are not in touch with it, and they don't feel they aren't capable most of the time. Here's one way to know if you have this belief. When you want to try something new, do you sometimes have the feeling, I can't do that? That thought could be the result of the belief, I'm not capable. What about when you don't do something well? Does that sometimes make you feel, I'm not capable? Another sign of this belief. Do you sometimes not do something you want to do because you feel, I can't do that? Another possible sign of this belief. In any case, it's important to at least be open to the idea that you might have a belief like this, because if you have it, it's most likely holding you back in some areas of your life. It is one of the most important beliefs causing your lack of self-confidence. And when you get rid of it, I promise life will get better. Although this belief might sound like it's the same as a couple you've already eliminated, it's not. It is possible to eliminate I'm not good enough and nothing I do is good enough and still hold this one. In many cases, we form several beliefs from the same events. In fact, you'll see in a little bit that the next two beliefs were formed from pretty much the same events that led to the last belief, nothing I do is good enough. Remember, you can hold a belief that intellectually you don't think is true about you. Today, as an adult, you might know that you are capable, but just knowing that isn't enough to eliminate the belief. I was shocked to discover I had this belief. I did lots of things really well, but boy, when I couldn't do something, instead of trying, I asked others to do it for me. Eliminating this belief has made a real difference in my life. Ultimately, the way to know if you have this belief is the same way to know if you have any belief. Say the words out loud and pause for a moment. If the words feel true, even a little bit, you have the belief. Try it right now. Please say, I'm not capable, out loud, and then be still for a moment. Does it feel even the slightest true? If it does, you have the belief. You know what it feels like to say these words when you have the belief. You'll say the same words out loud at the end of the process and will experience what the same words feel like when you no longer believe the statement. Okay, then. Let's start getting rid of I'm not capable. Based on our experience with thousands of clients, I can honestly say that most people who lack the self-confidence to do what they really want to do have this belief. When you find the source of this belief, you'll understand why so many people have it. But if you're absolutely certain that you don't have this belief, please click Next Belief and proceed to the next belief. Don't forget, though, that if you do have the belief, you could be missing out on the opportunity to get rid of it forever. And if you believe it, even a little bit, and you don't get rid of it, you probably won't be able to significantly improve your sense of self-confidence. My voice will stop now so you can write down the belief in the text box on your computer monitor. Click Continue when you're ready to continue with the process to eliminate the belief, I'm not capable. The next step to eliminate a belief is to figure out when you formed it. Most of our beliefs, certainly almost all of our self-esteem beliefs, were formed from events involving your parents that occurred when you were a very young child. Remember, a belief doesn't come from a single incident, but from many similar interactions. And when it's a very broad belief like mistakes and failure are bad, or a belief about oneself like I'm not capable, it's always formed from experiences we've had with our parents when we were young. Why are the beliefs always formed in interactions with our parents? Because during the first few years of life, we are trying to understand who we are, and we use our parents' treatment of us as information. If we are criticized frequently or yelled at, what does that mean about us? I'm not capable. Most parents just don't realize the impact of their words and behavior on their children, and that's why most of us form negative beliefs from our interactions with our parents, even though it's certainly not what they intended at all. Let me remind you what I told you during the first belief. There's a constant conflict between what most parents want and what most children do. Parents usually want their kids to be quiet. Kids are not usually quiet. Parents usually want their kids to be neat. Young children don't even understand the concept of neat. Parents usually want their kids to do what they're told. Kids usually want to do what they want to do. And when kids don't follow instructions, the reaction of their parents ranges from mild annoyance to extreme anger and punishment. By now it should be clear that in most cases, our parents loved us, and they probably didn't have much parenting training. What parenting school did your parents go to? None, I bet. Given all that, we all formed some beliefs in our childhood that are having a negative impact on us later in life. It's not our parents' fault. They did what they did, and we gave meaning to their behavior, which we can eliminate now. Okay? The source of this belief, I'm not capable, for most people, is mom and dad's annoyance or anger when we don't do what they want, when they want it, or the way they want it. Sometimes their reaction is minimal displeasure. Sometimes it's extreme anger and punishment. But in any case, children usually conclude that if mom and dad are dissatisfied with me, it must be my fault. And what are the words parents say so often that they have become a cliche? What's wrong with you? Can't you do the simplest things properly? Can't you do better than that? And what would these words mean to a young child if repeated often enough? I guess I'm just not capable. In some cases, the source of this belief is mom or dad doing things for you instead of allowing you to do it on your own. Now, take a look at your early life and see where the belief, I'm not capable, comes from for you. Then type into the text box on the screen the type of things your parents did and said in your childhood that led you to form this belief, I'm not capable. Rather than writing down how you felt about it, describe the actual situations, what your parents actually said and did, such as, my parents often got angry or annoyed at me when I didn't do what they wanted me to do. Take the time you need because this is important. When you're done writing, click Continue. Now the program will pause. Look at the events you've written down. Is it real to you that the conclusion you reached, I'm not capable, is a valid interpretation of those events? Can you agree that virtually any child at that age and in those situations would have reached a similar conclusion? Now we're going to play the possibilities game. We'll imagine that 4 friends of yours are visiting you and looking at a videotape of the events you just wrote down. Your interpretation of those events when you were a child was, I'm not capable. That is one valid interpretation of Mom and Dad's behavior. That interpretation wasn't wrong, but there are other reasonable interpretations of the same childhood events that you didn't think of as a child. So let's ask each of your friends for another alternative interpretation. Can you see that one friend might well say, Mom and Dad thought you weren't capable, but they were just plain wrong? Couldn't Mom and Dad thought you were capable but were just plain wrong explain those events in your childhood just as well as your interpretation that I'm not capable? Here's what your second friend says. Mom and Dad were mad or annoyed because they weren't patient, not because you weren't capable. Doesn't this interpretation also explain those events in your childhood just as well as your interpretation that I'm not capable? Here's a third possible interpretation of your childhood events that one of your friends suggests. How about this? Maybe you weren't capable as a kid, but that doesn't mean you never will be. Doesn't this interpretation also explain those events in your childhood just as well as your interpretation? Your childhood interactions with your parents could have lots of meanings. Here's one your fourth friend suggests. Mom and Dad's annoyance wasn't because you weren't capable. They just had unrealistic expectations for a child your age. Listen, children aren't born knowing that milk gets sour when you leave it out. Yet many parents yell the first time their children leave it out. Have you ever met a 4 or 5-year-old child who was on his way to his room to play with his Lego blocks, who was thinking, gee, I better make sure there are no toys on the floor so no one trips? I don't think so. But many parents yell at their children for not thinking in a way that literally is impossible for young children. Couldn't any one of these interpretations explain your childhood interactions with your parents just as well as your interpretation, I'm not capable? Of course they can. So is it real to you that a belief you've lived with almost your entire life, something you thought was a fact, is not a fact? It isn't the truth at all. It is only a truth, merely one interpretation of many possible interpretations of earlier events. Right? Please continue to interact totally with this program in order for it to work. And that includes answering my questions out loud, even if your answer is only a yes or no. So let me repeat the question. Is it real that I'm not capable is not a fact? It's not the truth. It's just a truth, merely one interpretation of many possible interpretations of earlier childhood events. I bet it is now. With a little help from me and your friends, you can see that the earlier events associated with your parents' annoyance when you didn't do what they wanted, how they wanted, or when they did too much for you, could have at least 4 different reasonable interpretations or meanings. Do you remember what you wrote down a few minutes ago as the source of your belief, I'm not capable? Look at the text box below on your screen. Right now, imagine seeing what you saw then and hearing what you heard then. Now, take a few minutes and really imagine the events of your childhood that led you to the formation of the belief, I'm not capable. Didn't it seem, when you were a child, as if you could actually see I'm not capable in those earlier events with your parents? It did, didn't it? You may have the sense that you didn't see the belief. You felt it. Once you formed the belief I'm not capable, you probably did feel it. I'll get back to the feeling in a moment. But what I'd like you to focus on now is not the feeling, but on my question. Didn't it seem as if you saw I'm not capable? As if you could point to it. As if you could have said to me, Shelley, can't you see I'm not capable? I didn't hear you. Did you say yes? Remember what I explained when you were eliminating the earlier beliefs. What happened was that you looked at events that could have had many different meanings and chose one, which in this case was, I'm not capable. By attributing that specific meaning to the events, each time you saw Mom and Dad's behavior, it was as if you could see that meaning in their behavior. But you didn't discover the meaning in the events. You attributed the meaning to the events. They had no meaning before you gave them one. Now that you think you saw I'm not capable as a child, I'd like you to look again. Did you really see I'm not capable? Remember, you told me anything you could see has a color, a shape, and a location. What color is I'm not capable? What shape? Where was it? Even if your parents said those very words to you, you still only saw them say it. You never heard that it was true. There are as many interpretations of your parents saying something as there is of their behavior. You can't see that anything they say is necessarily true, or even that they believed it. Is it real to you now that you saw events, but really never saw I'm not capable? If anything you can really see can be described, and if you can't describe what I'm not capable looks like, is it clear now that you never really saw it? Since you never really saw I'm not capable, what did you actually see? Is it clear now all you saw was the reaction of one or both of your parents when you did something they weren't happy about? Or you saw them doing lots of things for you and not allowing you to do them? In other words, all you really saw was a series of events. You see, what happened was that you looked at a series of events that can be interpreted in many different ways. You gave the events one meaning, which was, I'm not capable. By attributing that specific meaning to the events, each time you saw Mom and Dad's behavior, it was as if you could see that meaning in their behavior. But you didn't discover the meaning in the events. You attributed the meaning to the events. They had no meaning before you gave them one. I'm going to make an important distinction between consequences and meaning. There clearly were consequences to your parents' behavior. You got yelled at or punished, or your parents didn't talk to you. That didn't feel good. But was there any meaning to their behavior? Let me explain what I mean by meaning. Imagine you're in a room and someone you know comes in and doesn't speak to you. What might you automatically think? For example, you might have said, they're mad at me, or they're being rude, or they had something on their mind and didn't notice me. Notice, however, that what you said is the meaning you gave to the event. And where did the meaning you gave their behavior come from? That's right, your mind. Meaning is in your mind, yes? So if meaning is in your mind, is there any meaning inherent in your parents' behavior? Or in any other events for that matter? Of course, the answer is no. So it's not that what happened to you as a child didn't matter. It just has no meaning. Is it real now that the events had no meaning until you attributed one to them? Here's another way to understand that events have no inherent meaning. When I say that, I'm saying you don't know anything for sure about you, about other people, about life, as a result of these experiences. What do I know for sure about you from knowing about what happened to you as a child? Is it clear that I wouldn't know anything? And if I don't know anything, you don't either. All you know for sure is what actually happened. Your mom and dad sounded annoyed or angry and perhaps punished you when you didn't do what they wanted you to do when they wanted you to do it. And finally, if you never saw I'm Not Capable out there in the world, where has it been all these years? Did I hear you say that I'm Not Capable has only ever existed in your mind? That you never did see it out there in the world? That's right. If the belief is more real to you as a feeling than as a concept, here's another way to look at it. Didn't it seem as if your parents' behavior and comments when you were a child made you feel that I'm not capable? It did, didn't it? But you just agreed that the events have no meaning. Is it possible for events that have no meaning to make you feel anything, including I'm not capable? Of course not. So if mom and dad's behavior couldn't have made you feel I'm not capable, what did make you feel that? Yup. I think you know the answer to that question. Please answer out loud. That's right. You felt that only because that's the meaning you had already given to your parents' behavior. Let me help you make this real. Imagine that I had been there when you were a little child and had shown you the alternative interpretations for your parents' behavior. And after that conversation you concluded, I'm a capable person, and my parents just have unreasonable expectations of me. Here's what I'd like you to do now. Take a moment. Really imagine being a child, and mom and dad get annoyed at you again for something you did or didn't do. As you imagine the events, apply this different interpretation to their behavior. Notice how it feels to be a child who's thinking, oh, my parents have unreasonable expectations of me. That's why they get annoyed. Not because I'm not capable. You can use the pause button below to pause the video while you make this childhood scenario more real for yourself. When you're done imagining, press the play button. As you imagine this scene, does it still feel like your parents' words and actions are making you feel, I'm not capable? Probably not. And if you didn't feel I'm not capable then, would you feel it now? Again, the answer is no. So mom and dad's behavior never caused you to feel I'm not capable. That feeling came from your interpretation of their behavior. And since your feelings were not caused by events in reality, they were only the result of a meaning you made up to explain the events, Is it real that the feelings you had when your parents were annoyed or angry didn't tell you anything at all about whether or not you were capable? They didn't, did they? Okay, now, take a deep breath. Let it out slowly, and then say out loud, I'm not capable. Is it the truth? Does it still feel like the truth? Your answer is very important here. Don't forget that we form beliefs to give meaning to events that have no real meaning. Having done that, we then think that we observe the meaning in the events out there in the world. It becomes a fact for us. Once we realize that the earlier events never had any real meaning, that the meaning was only in our mind, that it was never a fact, that the feeling we had was caused by the meaning we gave meaningless events, the belief disappears forever. Take another breath and say, I'm not capable, out loud. I'll bet it feels very different when you say those words now than when you said them at the beginning of the exercise. Do these words feel true even a little bit? Unless the belief is 100% gone and the words don't feel true at all, you probably still have the belief. Remember, holding a belief is like being pregnant. You either is or you ain't. There's no sort of. If the belief is still there, it probably seems like you saw it. Once it no longer seems as if you saw, I'm not capable in those early events, the beliefs will be gone. So please click the repeat button to repeat that step of the process. If the belief is gone, please click continue. Now that you are clear the belief is really gone, congratulations! You eliminated your seventh belief. Many people, possibly even you, spend years trying to totally get rid of beliefs, and you just did it in about 20 minutes. Wow! Because behavioral and emotional problems are caused by several beliefs, getting rid of one or two will lessen a problem, but probably not eliminate it totally. So you may have to get rid of all 20 of the beliefs and the 5 conditionings on this program before your lack of confidence and your concern with the opinions of others disappear totally. But as a result of getting rid of this belief, the little voice that criticizes what you do will become a little bit quieter. Your self-doubt will decrease somewhat. Your confidence will increase. You'll be a little less concerned with what others think about you. Pretty cool, huh? Before you move on to the next belief, you might want to revisit the process. Who am I really? In fact, I'll keep reminding you after you eliminate each belief. It enables you to experience that you are the creator of your life. You experience that on a very profound level, and you experience that anything is possible and you have no limitations. I found that getting myself into that state many times, I started to experience the freedom and power inherent in that state almost all the time, without even having to do the process. Now you can either click Who Am I Really?, click Next Belief to get rid of another belief, or close the program. Then make a note to yourself when you plan to return and resume the program.